Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
MTHFR. I was in a conversation the other day with somebody and they kept throwing out this term, MTHFR. It's just all part of the conversation, talking about their business. Not really pitching me, but just really excited about what they're doing and not sure how that'll affect your MTHFR. And, I didn't stop to ask. But I noticed that when that term was fired out at me, my brain would stall, right? I'm listening, I'm trying to listen, I'm really trying to listen to what they had to say and maybe how I can help them. And then when they threw that term out, it was like a speed bump, right? And my brain just, okay, what is that? It's kind of going through my catalog of known acronyms or, should I know this? Is this something basic? PDQ, DNA, things like that. And I found myself missing fragments or entire sentences or maybe entire paragraphs of what was said next. What does MTHFR stand for? It's a medical term or it's a chemical term. I can't even read it. It's 30 letters long. It's an enzyme in the body, okay? And this person is very excited about what they're doing and just firing out this term, assuming everybody kind of knows what it is, and I didn't. And I guess shame on me for not asking, and I'll get into a longer conversation with the person next time. But there's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a better way. Got me thinking about an article I read that John Millen put out. It's called 6 Ways to Kill Your Jargon. I say it all the time. There are 3 reasons and only 3 reasons why you don't get referrals. 1, you don't have a relationship, right? That's the first thing. And for the most part, we're all pretty good at developing relationships with others. The second reason is that people aren't able to recognize opportunities for us. They might like us a lot, but they don't know what would be a good opportunity because we haven't done a good job of painting a picture for them. And the third thing is that they like us and they've recognized opportunities, but they don't know they don't know how to talk about us to others when we're not there. We haven't empowered them with the language to convert that recognition into a referral. I think that generally is relatively simple. It's that middle thing. It's that middle thing of not educating people on how to recognize opportunities. And a big problem with that is jargon. It's a huge problem. And so, John's article, it starts off, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. He starts off by saying, I don't often offer financial advice, but given the current quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve, it's a no-brainer to build incremental value by moving your resources from illiquid investments to ETFs or another high-yield vehicle. And then he says, I'm not sure what I said there. He's kind of joking. He's not a financial person. He's a communication. He's a leadership expert. But you hear people talking like that all the time, and I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's, and it's nobody knows other than the person who's doing it. I don't know if it's just somebody unaware that they're talking in a language that people don't understand, or they are aware and they're just trying to make themselves seem smart. Now, I can speak for myself. When I was an attorney, I know, just trying to sound smart I want to sound impressive. I want to build trust in the hearts and minds of the people that are sitting before me, and I'm going to throw out some legal terms. This guy knows what he's doing, and so therefore I'm going to refer him clients. It wasn't mean-spirited. I wasn't trying to make somebody feel bad. I was trying to really it was an ego thing, in all honesty. Um, and it hurt me, not in the sense, well, it may have hurt me. Some may have perceived that it was just Frank, you know, massaging his ego. So, but whatever the case, I wasn't getting referrals, until I learned to dumb it down, and that can be true of you as well. And so John's article, six ways to kill your jargon, is is really on point, right? He talks about you need to speak their language, right? You need to bring your level of explanation down to other people's understanding. Plain and simple. They're not going to raise their level of education to you. My network, back when I was practicing law, my network was not going to learn the legal terms that I went to law school to learn and spent a summer studying for the bar to learn. They're not. They got other things that they're going to be doing, and they're not going to learn mine. So, the first thing John talks about is develop awareness, develop jargon awareness. Stop and think about your business. What are the jargon terms? MT, HFR, that's a jargon term. I'm trying to think of a legal IRS 263A, short sales for realtors. EFTs for financial advisors. Could be 401ks. Some people don't understand what those things are. We all have jargon in our business, and we need to have jargon in our business to kind of shorthanded conversation with our colleagues, but when we're not with our colleagues, we have to learn to move away from it. The second thing is that John talks about is defining your terms. You've identified where the jargon points are. Okay, what's a way to define that? What's a quick way to define that? That, again, you have to bring your level of explanation down to someone's level of understanding. And people are going to have different levels of understanding. If I'm an attorney talking to an accountant, it's a different level of understanding as when I'm talking to a general contractor. Not disparaging anybody, because the general contractor certainly has a level of jargon or a level of vocabulary that I'm not going to understand as an attorney or doing what I do now. So we all have jargon. You got to identify them, then you got to kind of define the terms. 3, keep it simple. You need to try and keep it simple. I tell people, you can sound smart, you can sound complicated, you can sound like you add a lot of value to the world, or you can get referrals. You generally can't do both. You got to get people to recognize opportunities for you. You've got to bring that level of understanding down to them, and it's got to be simple, because they're not going to they're not going to spend a whole lot of critical, they're going to spend a whole lot of time doing critical thinking about your business. Okay, what does he mean by this? What does he mean by MTHFR? What does that mean? It's got to be something that people can just, they've just got to be able to just latch on in a hurry, right? Just latch on in a hurry. Or you've got to give them the space and stop and say, okay, kind of really get into a definition every time you talk about it. Remember when I defined what MTHFR is? This is what this is. The fourth thing John talks about is watch for the nonverbals, right? Watch for how people react to the things you're saying. Are their eyes glazing over? Whatever it is, right? Most people aren't going to ask, right? I didn't ask this particular person about MTHFR. I didn't, right? The conversation's moving a mile a minute. We're kind of getting to know each other. It was just kind of a quick get acquainted sort of a thing. I don't know if they realized they were talking in jargon. Maybe they assumed I knew what they were talking about. I wasn't going to ask. Most people aren't going to ask because they don't want to make themselves. They don't want to make themselves look ignorant. They don't want to make you feel bad either. So you just kind of let it go. And they let it go, and you missed an opportunity for them to recognize a referral opportunity for you, and it could be in that next moment, that next call, that they connect the dots, and you missed it. You know what? And you missed it. So kind of watch for the nonverbals. What I always tell people, well, this gets into John's fifth, and I don't know that I agree with John. I agree with John on this, but he just says ask and listen. Ask people if they understand. I don't know that I agree with that, John. I don't know that I do. And the reason I don't is because I have seen people, hey, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand that legal term I just threw out? Yeah. Because they don't want to look dumb. They don't want to look dumb. So that's that question in my mind, my opinion. John's a great guy. We can differ on this. Is that people are, for the most part, aren't going to fess up. They're just not. They're, I don't understand. You've worn me out with the jargon, and they're just, they're going to let it go, right? It's just easier for them to say, yeah, I understand. Finish whatever you have to say. I'm done. So I don't know that that's a great way of, if you're going to ask that question, you almost need to kind of test them without putting them on the spot to see if they understand. But what I really love is his number 6. Use analogies or stories to kind of illustrate what you mean. So MTHFR, you could basically create a not necessarily a story or analogy or just say, this is what somebody told me about cholesterol. Cholesterol is like the body's firefighters. It's going in. Cholesterol is not a bad thing. This person said, cholesterol is not a bad thing. He kind of using some terms in there, and then came back and said, think of it this way, Frank. Think of cholesterol as kind of like the body's firefighters, and if there's a problem that you want, if there's a fire, you want your firefighters there, and when there's a problem, the body sends cholesterol to the area. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that's correct or not, but they created a picture. I was like, okay, I get it. I get what you're trying to say. And we can do that with a lot of different things that we're talking about. We can, and it takes a little bit of effort. What I would encourage you to do is get on ChatGPT or get on AI and start, hey, here's the situation. Because, that's how I learned what MTHFR was. I just did a search, and I could go to ChatGPT and say, okay, can you create a useful analogy that most people would understand? Make it sports related, make it cooking related, make it whatever related, that I could use that to help people understand what MTHFR is. So, we all have jargon. Everybody's got jargon. You've got jargon. I've got jargon. Everybody's got jargon. You need to stop and you need to assess what the jargon is. First of all, you need to speak their language. You need to bring it down to them. But you need to be aware of what are the jargon terms in your business. You need to be able to define those terms. People aren't going to know what those terms are, so define those terms. And in making those terms, in defining those terms, keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. You can sound smart or you can get referrals. You got a choice. And you want referrals, so, put a little bit of effort into this. Watch for their nonverbal cues. Watch where they kind of, micro expression, tilting their head or something like that. I'm not a fan of asking people. I'm a fan of doing the work on the front end, right? And come in with that story. Well, it's kind of like this. Frank, it's kind of like this. John, it's kind of like this. But those are the things you need to do to kill jargon in your conversations. And if you kill jargon, if you do a great job of killing jargon and make it something that people understand, you will get more referrals.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.